Hello, my name's Meg and today we're going to read The Great Big Sleep. Winter had begun and Squirrel and Bear were getting ready for the Great Big Sleep. "Have you got enough food there?" laughed Bear as Squirrel shoveled more nuts onto his plate. "Almost," replied Squirrel, "just a little more." "Well, eat up," said Bear. "It's nearly time for bed." But Squirrel wasn't feeling tired at all. Through the window, Squirrel could see the forest covered in a blanket of crisp white snow. "Maybe we could have one last play in the snow before we go to sleep," he suggested. So Squirrel and Bear went outside to make snow animals and throw snowballs. Bear was the perfect sledge, but soon he was feeling sleepy. "I think I'm ready for my great big sleep," he yawned. But Squirrel didn't feel sleepy in the slightest. "Let's have some warm milk," said Bear. Once they had wiped away their white milky moustaches, Bear's eyes were starting to feel very heavy. But Squirrel's eyes were still bright. He was wide awake. "What about reading a bedtime story?" suggested Bear. So they read one story, and then another. "Could we have one more story?" asked Squirrel. "I'm sorry, Squirrel, but I'm just too tired," said Bear. "Do you think if you tried you could get to sleep?" Squirrel jumped into his bed. "I'll try my best." "Sleep tight," whispered Bear. But although Squirrel tried, he still wasn't sleepy. Crunch, crunch, crunch. "More nuts?" asked Bear, amazed that Squirrel could still be hungry. "I thought that a few more would help me doze off," Squirrel replied. "Vroom! Just hoovering up all the crumbs," shouted Squirrel over the noise. "Slurp. Just having one more drink," said Squirrel before taking another big slurp. Boing, boing. Squirrel tried everything he could to make himself sleepy, but all he managed to do was keep Bear awake. Bear got more and more cross. And when Squirrel decided to practice his trumpet, it was the last straw. "Be quiet," roared the tired and grumpy Bear. "Go to sleep." Squirrel felt bad for making Bear so cross, but he just wasn't sleepy. He crept out of the den so he wouldn't disturb Bear anymore. Squirrel bounced and slid and hopped in the fluffy white snow down to the frozen lake. He sat and watched as the animals danced and played on the ice, but he didn't notice the snow beginning to fall harder and the night growing colder. Meanwhile, the den was so quiet that Bear couldn't sleep because he was worried. Where was Squirrel? Bear lit his lantern and headed out into the snow to search for him. The snow was heavy and had covered all of Squirrel's tracks. Bear didn't know how he would ever find his friend. He looked here and there and everywhere. He called out for his friend, but there was no reply. "What have I done?" Bear sobbed, slumping down in the snow. "Squirrel is lost forever, all because I was horrid and grumpy." But then, in the distance, Bear heard a funny noise. He followed the noise through the snow, and at last he found a little squirrel-shaped snow animal with very noisy, chattering teeth. After shaking all the snow off Squirrel, Bear snuggled him into his fur and carried him home through the cold night. "Don't you worry, Squirrel," he whispered to his shivering friend. "I'll soon have you home by the fire." Bear wrapped Squirrel up in his scarf and sat him by the fire until he thawed out. "I'm sorry, Bear," sobbed Squirrel. "I didn't mean to cause all this trouble." "That's okay, Squirrel," smiled Bear. "I'm sorry I snapped at you. I was tired and grumpy, but I didn't mean to upset you." "I'm feeling a little tired myself," said Squirrel with a yawn. "I think I might finally be ready for my great big sleep." And at last Squirrel fell into a lovely deep sleep. Squirrel's snores were a little bit noisy, but Bear didn't mind too much. He was just happy his friend was safe. And before he knew it, Bear fell asleep too. Bear woke up to the sweet smell of spring. He yawned and stretched, got up and made a delicious breakfast to share with Squirrel. But Squirrel just kept on snoring and snoozing. He slept all morning. Bear didn't know what to do. He was hungry. And then Bear had an idea. Toot! Blew his trumpet. You are done enough sleeping, laughed Bear, as he walked with Squirrel through the spring forest. And that was the end of the Great Big Sleep. So I'll send this book on and you can read it and have a look at all the funny pictures. I hope you enjoy it.